How you going, guys?
Mate, we are going well. I'm going to take up as little of your time as we can. We're going to go straight to you to look at market data, and then we'll head back to Julian. Over to you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, I think it's quite interesting to see really what the COT data has been saying over the last few weeks and what actually ended up happening. And this is the thing. When we're looking at the COT data, what we're seeing is where the risk is. Where is the risk for these commercial traders? Where do they see the biggest problems if they were to transpire? And they saw the biggest problems on many of these markets moving to the downside with the Nasdaq. You can see that the index was at 21% last week. It's still at 21% this week. So we'd still, next week is going to be how they really feel about this, because between Tuesday and Friday of last week, that was collating new data for the next release, not this particular release. And it was Friday that we saw the big sell-off. As Jules says, lack of liquidity on Friday. I think that there was an just panic that was going on with a massive lack of liquidity. And that lack of liquidity accentuates the actual moves. So Monday's going to be fascinating when people are back at their desk. What are they likely to be doing? In accordance to this, they're still worried about the downside of the Nasdaq. And when you look at the Nasdaq, then you would say that the overextension that we have seen does make these small little things, or even potentially big things that could be happening worldwide, ever more dangerous to hold Nasdaq positions long. So if we look at the seasonality with this on the Nasdaq, it kind of gives us a slightly different view. And the seasonality did suggest that throughout November there would be this little bit of volatility, but then towards the end of November we pick up before we start to just ease off a little bit during December. And that may well end up happening. We might actually start to see a bounce come back in on Monday, kind of going into the start of December. Let the story that people were focusing on Friday unfold a little bit more, and then maybe we start to see the stock market change. I think it's a really interesting dynamic now. Some of the worries that the Nasdaq has seen and the S&P have seen have been because of interest rate hikes, and the fact that it then puts some of those stocks at a different valuation. They're going to have to get revalued, and it would potentially bring the price down. But now with this new piece of information about this new COVID wave, can the Fed raise interest rates? Can they start to taper at the same rate they were talking about with new concerns? Maybe not. And if that was to happen, if that was to end up being something that was announced, that could again change the dynamic on the stock market. What are people going to do? But we're in that discovery phase now. We're in that confused stage. What's going to go on? It kind of increases the chances of the Nasdaq potentially holding a position, particularly when we look at the seasonality, and the S&P may be doing the same as well, starting to hold into a position just into December. And then maybe we start to tail off. I mean, I'm still looking for that market, the US markets, to start coming down more towards February than now. But with things like COVID, being such a huge issue and a huge story, these emergency announcements that can happen can change everything. They can really change the terrain. But for right now, I think we're potentially looking for a little bit of a bounce and a little bit of a range in accordance to the seasonality, and in accordance to what the COT data is currently saying. S&P 39% on the 36-month, 4% big drop on the 18-month, and a 14% on the 6-month. So maybe a bit of easing back, but I don't think the big move potentially is going to come maybe for another couple of months. So I'll wrap it up there, mate, and pass it back.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated, Ash. Thanks for popping in.